Okay. You ready then? All right. Here we go. We call the Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call.
Councilmember Karen. Dumbuya.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Bunslus.
Here.
Spooner.
Here.
Teal.
Here.
Mayor Bracek.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to approving the agenda. Anybody have any changes or corrections they need to the agenda? Seeing none, I would take a motion and a second to approve.
So move. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dumbuya, seconded by Councilmember Ross. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Move on to presentations, introductions, and we got some police officer introductions tonight, so I'll invite Chief Sherwin forward for that.
Mayor, member.
This is only our second meeting in here with all the new technology, so a few bugs.
All right. Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to take this time to introduce our newest police officers that have joined us. Officer Isaac Karen, if you can come forward, and Officer Billy Madsen, if you can come up forward. We're actually a little late with this introduction, but trying to get schedules and things aligned made this the earliest possible date. Officer Isaac Karen started with us in January, and he completed his field training program at the end of May. He's been on his own solo patrol ever since. He came to us. He's a Faribault native, BA graduate, Eagle Scout, correct? Attended Minnesota North College. Some used to be Vermilion College, people commonly referred to it. Majored in law enforcement wildlife studies. He's came to us, even though this is his first law enforcement job. He worked for a time for the U.S. Forest Service as a wildland firefighter out west. So he knows a little bit about hard work. He's been with us ever since, and he's a great addition to the department. Officer Billy Madsen, a little bit different story. He comes to us with experience. He was a lateral transfer. He's worked in Montgomery, city of LeSueur, and Waseca County. And so he started on February 19th? Yeah, February 19th. And then his field training lasted 9 weeks. So he's been on his own since the end of April. So these are our newest police officers. We're certainly happy to have them. And now, as we traditionally do, invite family members forward. Isaac, first, if you want to have your badge pinned on. And Billy? Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. If you want to introduce yourself to the council and shake their hands.
Congratulations and welcome aboard. Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Always a pleasure to see new faces. Although we do like the old faces too, don't get me wrong. All right, we'll move on to approving the minutes of the July 25th, 2024 City Council meeting and the July 25th, 2024 Special City Council meeting, closed session, and the July 2nd, 2024 Emergency City Council meeting. Anybody have any changes or corrections that need made to those? Seeing none, I would take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Ross, second by Councilmember Teal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Imagine we don't have anything on the clipboard. Okay, Wonderful. No requests to be heard tonight. We'll move on to consent agenda, items 6A through 6J. Anybody have anything they want pulled for discussion? Seeing none, I would take a motion in a second to approve those.
Barrett.
Second.
Okay. Who got the first? Teal?
Yeah.
All right. Motion by Teal, second by Dumia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. We have no public hearings tonight. We'll move on to items for discussion. Resolution 2024-125, approve acquisition of 505 Central Avenue and authorize the execution of the purchase agreement. Over to Administrator Kinzer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a purchase agreement for 505 Central Avenue. This is one of the items that was on my to-do list to bring to completion upon starting, and we have that here before you tonight. Things to note with this item would be the closing date is in March 2025, so there is no associated budget amendment or anything that needs to go along with that. And just talking about, I guess, the future plans around that, which will come before you in the 2025 budget, is the city has no interest in actually keeping this building. So we would be looking to go ahead and demolish it and then extend that parking lot that is there. And so, but again, that'll be 2025 stuff. So we will be talking more about that. The purchase price has been negotiated at $166,860. And so I'm happy to try and answer any questions if I can.
Okay, thank you, Administrator Kinzer. Any questions? Nothing too rare. We often do land conglomerations, collecting for other projects. So, okay. There's no questions. Motion and a second to approve Resolution 2024-125.
Mayor Vracek.
Councilmember Ross.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-125.
A second.
Motion by Councilmember Ross, second by Councilmember Von Sluis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Move on to ordinance 2024-11, amended chapter 17 of the Faribault City Code of Ordinances to regulate city code violations within the city. First reading, back over to
Yes, Chapter 17 in the Code of Ordinances is titled offenses and then provides a number of different things that are offenses and remedies. And this is adding a whole new section to that code chapter related to administrative citations. You all, with the Charter Commission, really laid the groundwork for this back in 2023, late 2023. And so this is really giving us the ability to issue administrative citations for items that we currently have as penalties or things that we can issue a citation for within the Code of Ordinances. This is certainly, this is only the first reading, so if approved, this would come back to you at the next council meeting for a second reading. But this is certainly not a done thing. There are still some other things that need to happen, including getting a code enforcement position in front of you for consideration and before we get it posted, as well as per the ordinance designating employees who can actually issue administrative citations. I think that based on the conversation in the work session the other night, I think it would be good to at least have a future discussion about who should be the administrative hearing officer. Is it the council as a whole, or is it someone that we would seek to hire? And then we also need to adopt a fee schedule with this that we have not done yet. So this is really step one of multiple steps that need to happen. And so we recommend that you approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-11.
Okay, thank you, Administrator Kinzer. Talked about this in the work session at length. Good overview of it, lots of details in there. There are questions? Take a motion in a second. Motion by Councilmember Spooner,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Teal, and this is a roll call.
Councilmember Dumbuya,
Here.
Ross,
Aye.
Von Sluis,
Aye.
Spooner, Teal,
Aye.
Mayor Vracek.
Aye. That passes first reading. Move on to ordinance 2024-12, amend chapter 16 to update notification and other requirements. First reading, back over to Administrator Kinzer.
Yep, I'll be brief on this one. This is really just updating the notification requirements related to our nuisances, as well as changing some simple language as part of it. The ordinance does show, that is in the packet, does show the red line, blue line for what would be changing. And so for the most part, it's minor changes, except for in that notification section, where it will fall more in line with what we've actually been doing versus what was there previously.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments? It's always nice to update things to our actual practices.
Mayor Veracek,
Councilmember Von Sloos.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-12.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Von Sloos, seconded by Councilmember Ross. And it's another roll call.
Councilmember Dumbuya,
Yeah.
Ross,
Aye.
Von Sloos,
Aye.
Spooner, Teal,
Aye.
Mayor Bracek.
Aye.
No,
passes.
I say yeah. Hi. You want to correct that?
You were in favor of it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, that one passes first reading. It'll be back in 2 weeks. Move on to ordinance 2024-10. Approve a zoning text amendment to allow laundry services in C1 zoning. Second reading over to Director Wanberg.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading, as you mentioned, to allow laundromats and laundry services as by right in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District. Since the first reading, the city has received no comments and we've made no changes to the ordinance, so we do recommend approval of the second reading and then by a separate action approving the summary publication.
Terrific. All right, anybody have any questions, comments for this? We saw this 2 weeks ago. It's back again.
Mayor Veracek,
Councilmember Ross.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-10.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ross, second by Councilmember Dumbia, and this is an ordinance. Roll call.
Councilmember Dumbuya, are
Present.
you voting in favor of it?
Favor.
Ross,
Aye.
Von Sloos,
Aye.
Spooner, Teal,
Aye.
Mayor Bracek.
Aye. That one passes second reading. We won't see that one again. Need a motion and a second to approve a summary publication of ordinance 2024-10. There's a little typo there.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Spooner, seconded by Councilmember Von Sloos. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one passes. We'll move on to the Cash and Storage Edition, or Cash and Stone Ridge, 4th Edition easement vacation. Director Wanberg, you're doing both of these together?
Yes, we can go through all of them together.
Okay, and you'll present them as they come.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
By way of background, the applicant, Rick Cashin, on behalf of the owner, Rick Cashin Construction Incorporated, is requesting to replat 4 twin home lots into 3 single-family residential lots at 1940, 1950, 1960, and 1970 13th Street Northwest. By way of location on this, I put a location map that shows this. Where the red star is the area 13th Street that runs east-west. The first street that you see to the west of that would be Bagley Avenue or Western Avenue. That's the area we're talking about. Here's an aerial photograph of the site that shows the 4 lots that you will be taking action on tonight. So they were originally designed as twin homes. In the aerial photograph, you can see a number of twin homes on the north side of 13th Street Northwest. The applicant does report that the twin homes are not selling at the same rate as the single-family homes, so would like to take the 4 twin home lots and convert them to 3 single-family residential lots in the area that you see in. So the request that you have before you, that is going to require platting or replatting those lots. So you have a request before you to approve the preliminary and final plats. And there's easements that run between the 2 twin homes, and because you'll be eliminating that common lot line there with the existing drainage and utility easement to vacate that area, and I'll show that in just a minute. So the final plat would look something like this that you have before you. The dash lines that you see going diagonally, those are the original twin home lots. So 1, 2, 3, 4 going across. And then the solid black lines that are darker with those solid dark numbers, 1, 2, 3, those are the 3 new single-family residential lots. And then that area where you see the number 2 right in the middle of the plat, that's the existing easement that would have to be vacated between what would have been the 2 twin homes in that area. So this shows a drawing of that easement vacation. That'll come back out. That will allow for the construction of a single-family residence on that lot. So Planning Commission did recommend, with a 7-0 vote, approval of the ordinance that you have in front of you to vacate that unnecessary easement. That does take first and second reading, so it's the first reading tonight to vacate that unnecessary easement. And they did recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat for Stone Ridge 4th Edition. We did have one resident in the neighborhood that was noticed that came to the meeting and just asked about the project and wanted to make sure it was okay drainage-wise. We addressed that issue, not a concern. So we will, as we come forward, presuming you approve the preliminary and final plat, we'll be back with a development agreement probably as early as the second reading of the vacation ordinance and have some language in there related to things like drainage and that pond that you see. Actually, I'll just go back and show it, but the pond that you see to the north of the yellow area. We want to make sure that's functioning properly. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on this.
Perfect. Thank you, Director Wanberg. Any questions? Does Mr. Cashin own the outlot to the north of all these?
Yes.
The big outlot? Okay.
Mayor Voracek.
Councilmember Ross?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-13.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Ross, seconded by Councilmember Teal, and it is a roll call.
Councilmember Dumbuya,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Van Sloos,
Aye.
Spooner, Teal,
Aye.
Mayor Voracek.
Aye. That passes first reading on that item. Resolution 2024-138, approve the preliminary and final plats for Stone Ridge 4th Edition.
Mayor Voracek.
Councilmember Van Sloos.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-138.
Motion by Councilmember Van Sloos, seconded by Councilmember Spooner, and this is not a roll call, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Okay. Move on to the Kleberger Riverview Ridge Edition preliminary plat, final plat, variance, conditional use permit. And back over to Director Wanberg, and he will go through all of these items.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will go through all 3 of them, and you'll take separate action on all 3 of them. By way of background, the applicant is Cheryl and Don Kleberger. They are present here tonight, so if you do have questions for them, they're happy to be able to address your questions as well. The site that we're talking about is 1150 Quartz Circle, and the proposal really from the Klebergers, they've found this 10-acre site. It's the former Eastman site. I'll show you maps of that in just a little bit and the location maps as well. But they found the 10-acre site, purchased that really for their single-family home, excited to have a house in the woods overlooking the river in that area. Parcel is, as I mentioned, 10 acres. It's in the R2 low-density residential district. It's also in the shoreland overlay district. There are a number of issues associated with that, so we're not able just to simply issue a building permit like you typically would for a single-family residence. There's a number of things that we need to go through, and we'll talk through all of those tonight. So the location is, map here shows where 1150 Quartz Circle is. It's west of Lindale Avenue or State Highway 21 and north of the Cannon River in that area where you see the red star. And this is an overview, an aerial map of the area. So the Kleberger site, as I mentioned, is a 10-acre site that's shown on the map here. Next door is the Vanderveen property. That's a 5-acre site. So many of you probably are familiar with this. You might be familiar with it as the Eastman property. So the Eastmans had the house where the Vanderveens are. That was a 15-acre lot. They did subdivide that, so the Vanderveens had 5 acres and sold it to them, and then the 10-acre lot was a vacant lot. I've also shown with the white dashed arrow going from Court Circle at the upper right-hand corner of the yellow parcel. That dashed area is a private easement that was registered, and that provides a driveway to the Vanderveen property across this property. So that's going to be part of our discussion tonight as well. I'll just zoom in and give you a little bit bigger picture of this area. So Crystal Lane is to the north with the twin homes overlooking this. And then you can see the driveway as it comes into the Vanderveen house to the west. You can see the river there to the south. You can also see Amber Court on the west side of the twin homes coming off of Crystal Lane. That is a right-of-way, unimproved right-of-way, but it is a right-of-way, so there was a clear expectation when this subdivision to the north went in that eventually that would be, it's Amber Court, that it would come down and be a cul-de-sac or some sort of approach to be able to provide some houses in that area. Then you see Court Circle on the east side of those townhomes, and that's again where they gained their access to this site currently along that long driveway that you see running diagonally from the northeast to the southwest. The applicant, really, as I mentioned, there are a number of issues. Typically, a single-family house is pretty easy, and we are able to check off the requirements for that and be able to process this. In this case, again, this was originally a 15-acre lot, and it was meets and bounds, so it's an old lot. Somewhere along the line, the Eastmans did subdivide that lot into the 5-acre and the 10-acre lot that you have before you, the Kleberger lot, and that was done without a plat. The ordinance, and our ordinance in particular, requires that it be platted, and this is based in part on size, when the property is conveyed and so on, but it needs to be platted. So the applicant has worked hard and gone out and got a civil engineer and put together all the documents, not expecting that they would have to go through this process of platting for a single-family residence, but the ordinance requires it. They went ahead and did that. So they're asking for approval of a preliminary and final plat. The ordinance that this site is also in the Shoreland Overlay District, as I mentioned earlier, and the Shoreland Overlay District requires a conditional use permit or a CUP to allow a single-family residence in the Shoreland Overlay District. We do have some exceptions to that, including if you're in a rural area, a farmhouse does not need that, a farmstead does not, but in the city limits or in the city urban area, single-family residence does require a conditional use permit. So they've applied for that permit as well. And then there are a number of variances related to the location of the proposed house, and specifically in relation to the Bluff Impact Zone, which is in the Shoreland Overlay District, and we'll go through that in more detail as well. So I'll go ahead and show the preliminary plat. This gives you an idea of what's being proposed here. All those dashed lines and the diagonal lines that you see on there, that's the topography or the contours. So you can imagine it drops significantly from the north end of the site down to the river, and in some places it's quite steep. It's maybe in that average of getting close to 50%. So it is a steep drop into that area. It is a wooded area. You can see that gray line that runs through. That area is the driveway. So that's the existing driveway that goes from Court Circle over to the Vanderveen property. And there has been discussions early on about, well, can we move that driveway or can we eliminate that driveway? Both the Vanderveens and the Klebergers would like that driveway to remain right where it is. They really like the feel of that driveway going through the woods and accessing their house in that location. So they're trying to work around the existing driveway. You'll also see on this preliminary plat where there's in the upper left-hand corner of the parcel, it says Amber Court. So what we would be requiring, this parcel does not meet our ordinance because it does not have the frontage on public right-of-way. And clearly, the expectation was Amber Court was going to be extended into the site at some point. So they are dedicating part of that right-of-way, their half of the right-of-way, to this plat. So that's why you see a cul-de-sac there. That would make this a legal lot to build on. And then they've also shown the, the drainage and utility easements and so on that site. The final plat looks like this. This gives you a little bit better idea of those easements and the right-of-way on there. There's the driveway easement, which is a private easement. It's not, again, not between the city and the applicant. This is between two private property owners going across their property. And they would need to work out if they're going to shift or extinguish that easement. That would be between those two property owners. There's also a utility easement that came down to an old structure that is no longer there, but you can kind of see it in the aerial photograph where that was. Depending on where the house is, that would have to come back or the applicant, the owner would have to vacate or extinguish that easement. And it should no longer be needed, but we would not be able to issue a building permit over either of those easements. And then you can see the half of Amber Court that would be dedicated with this. And if any building permit was ever required on the property to the west, then we would require that property be platted and the dedication of that final part of the cul-de-sac there to make that legal, because right now that doesn't meet the ordinance as well. But they're not asking for a building permit on that. This map here shows zooms in on the proposed house and the existing driveways, what you see in that shaded gray area. The red line is the shoreland overlay district. So our ordinance requires 300 feet from the ordinary high water level back. That's in the shoreland overlay. So this house is partially in there and it has to meet the ordinance. Now, if the house was entirely out of that district, it would not be in the shoreland overlay district and it would not require a conditional use permit. But it's in that, so it does require a conditional use permit based on our ordinance. You can also see the dashed lines and the solid lines. The dashed lines are the existing contours, so you can see there's a fair amount of slope on there, and with the proposed contours, a fair amount of grading in that area as well to get the house to work as it relates to the bluff there. I do want to show you this. This is one of the more important drawings on this. So if you can see at a solid purple line, and it's labeled as top of bluff. The DNR in our ordinance has a formula that identifies where what's defined as a bluff, and it's a percentage of slope over a period of number of feet. The line that determines the top of the bluff is that purple line that you see running along the south side of that house, or the bottom, towards the bottom of your screen. And then the blue line that you see on there, the light blue line, that's the bluff impact zone. It's 20 feet beyond the top of the bluff. And that bluff impact zone, that's where you need to not touch it, basically. Just leave it alone, a no impact zone in terms of DNR not wanting to see you cut into the slopes, do a lot of things with it. It really is a no touch zone in that area. And then importantly, the red line is the 30-foot setback from the top of the bluff. So any development that happens with that structure has to be set back from the top of the bluff 30 feet. And you can see that runs through the middle of the house right now, so it does not meet the ordinance. And you can see the grading work that's being done within the no impact zone does not meet the ordinance. In addition, there's a requirement that says you can't have slopes in this area any more than 15%. And the slopes that are being shown to be able to get the house in there and conform with the existing contours is close to 50%. So significantly steeper in that area. We are required to send this to the DNR for their review. They did review this and recommended that the city not approve the variance request. So there's information on that, more detailed information in your packet. One of the challenges with this is the existing easement that goes through there, and again, we don't control that. It's a private easement between two property owners. The planner did put together some options. They don't exactly, there would be some, modifications to options 2 and 3, because you have a 25-foot setback from Amber Court, and it's showing 15 feet. So those don't meet the ordinance either. But the idea would be to have a spot that you don't need a variance. So option 1 would be an example of that. That would not require a variance. The issue there, though, is the applicant's home, the Klebergers, would be overlooking an existing driveway and not necessarily overlooking, where they want to back into the woods as much. The other issue there is just to the north of that. It's really, the house has a 10-foot setback from the property line to the north where the twin homes are. We did have a public hearing with the Planning Commission, and we did have a couple neighbors there, including the Vanderveens to the west. The Vanderveens would be open to the idea, have expressed interest, rather than trying to move that driveway and deal with the easement, they would support a variance. We had an applicant or a property owner to the north with the twin homes who said, I don't want this house sitting, or a house or a driveway sitting, close to my back line, because they're all wooded trees and I'm overlooking that. So we had a couple of residents that, weren't excited about the idea of moving the house further to the north. So those are a couple comments that we received. Again, the neighbors did support the variances and trying to keep it as far to the south as possible and maintain the existing driveway in its current location. Planning Commission had a fairly lengthy discussion on this. I think all the Planning Commission members did empathize. They think it's a wonderful lot. They understand all the hard work that the Klebergers have put in to try to address this issue. And again, they think, they would like to see something worked down on that. Nevertheless, with a 7-0 vote, they did approve the resolution to approve the preliminary and final plat. Staff also recommended that. The plat as proposed meets our ordinance. There's no issue with the plat. But the staff and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the resolution 2024-140, which denies the applicant's variance requests related to constructing the proposed house in the Bluff impact zone. They just felt like, especially with the things that you're seeing on the news related right now to bluff lines starting and steep slopes getting saturated and starting to slump and break down, with slides and so on, they just don't think that's the right thing to do. It does not meet our ordinance, and as I mentioned, staff feels strongly that way. The Planning Commission did as well. They are recommending, with a 7-0 vote, approval of the CUP, but the CUP is dependent on not having any variances, pulling it out, pulling the house away from the bluff to meet the ordinance, and then saying that's fine. We're fine with the house if it's in the shoreline, but possibly, depending on where the house is located, that wouldn't even be necessary. It would simply be, you approve the plat, and if the applicant could move around that access drive and come off of Amber Court instead, then there would be no need for any of this. It's just the plat, and we can talk about it at that point in time. So the council action that you have before you tonight, we are, as I mentioned, the applicants have worked really hard on this, and they've worked and spent a fair amount of money with consultants to look at this, survey the site, come up with the plat, and do this work. They're excited about trying to get a house to work on this site. We don't have any concerns with the preliminary and final plats, and we are at our deadline, or very near our deadline, for approving or denying this. So our recommendation tonight is that the council should approve the preliminary and final plats before you. Our recommendation, again, is to deny the variance and approve the CUP. However, if you're inclined to try to work something out that requires a variance, what we would say then is that the council should continue action on this, on both the variance and the CUP, because the CUP is dependent on, like I say, there not being variances. So continue this until your next meeting and give us direction on, why you think it should be approved, and then we'll do our best to try to put resolutions together that way. I think at that point, if you were to go that direction, we'd also invite the DNR to come in and talk to you about their concerns about approval of this. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor, but I think it may be helpful just to put something like this back up. So what I was saying about Amber Court, that would be an option that potentially we don't have to have that completely improved. Again, in the development agreement, we write something that allows a private driveway going through that unimproved area into the unimproved Amber Court until the time that the property of the west plats that property. But we could still have private drives that come off of Amber Court and then serve the Klebergers and serve the Vanderveens to the west. Now, we've had that discussion, and there really is no interest on that. But from a staff standpoint, we can't support the variance, and there is another option, and that is to have the two parties vacate that, or do something different with that driveway easement and come off of Amber Court and still have a house without a driveway, that overlooks the river, but the driveway would be towards the front and leaving that wide open for the backyard overlooking the river. So we do think there's some solutions with that. Again, I'll turn this back to the council, and the applicant is here if you choose to allow them to speak here as well. Should mention they just drove from Florida, and so they've been driving for a very long time. They called from Kentucky last night, and we're rushing to get here to be present at the meeting tonight. And again, I turn it back to the council.
Director Wanberg. Discussion.
Mayor Brojek. I just wanted to make it clear that my daughter nannies for the Klebergers. So we just wanted to make sure there's no conflict of interest. And city staff looked into that, and there's not.
Other conversation.
Mayor, Director Weinberg, you might have covered this and I just missed it, but the easement is not only over the Kleberg's property, but it looks like it goes over the other home's property, the very first twin home in that area. Is that correct?
Oh, that is correct. There's a small...
And there's a permanent easement on that property.
Yes, on
too,
record.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hard to read it, but the quartz circle is the cul-de-sac to the east or the northeast of that, and you'll see a little triangular place there, and that is recorded with the county, that little easement.
Okay. I need a little bit of education here now, and we've had a lot of flooding in the area and stuff. Some in Faribault, but a lot in other communities. How does something like this? I mean, a lot of homeowners right now are depending on FEMA for their flooding and stuff. Where's the flood currently? I mean, it's as high as it's ever been.
Sure.
Where is it in relation to this property now?
So the floodplain and the floodway are well away from the proposed house. It is significantly, downhill. So this is not the parcel has clearly floodplain and floodway on it, but not where the house is located.
But not where the house is.
Yep.
But could the DNR's concern about erosion? I mean,
yes.
Would
the
that
bluff.
ever come up, or are they far enough away?
No, in terms of the bluff, that would come up. You'll see plenty of places, even along the Mississippi River. You might recall University of Minnesota in the last few years had some significant buildings that were up on a bluff, but those bluffs that are well out of the flood, they're hundreds of feet above the river, but they're on steep bluffs where those bluffs have been saturated with the heavy rain, and those have fallen and slumped. And so it is a separate issue in many respects. It's still part of the shoreland overlay, the bluff requirements, but it has to do with the steepness of those slopes and staying away from the edge of those.
And I'm probably going down a road that's, 10,000 years away or something, but like I said, to educate me here a little bit, when there is a catastrophe, a flood like we've had recently, FEMA has to step in and help the homeowners that experience flooding around lakes and things like that. When the city, I guess us, approves something like this, does the city take on any responsibility for issues?
It's a good question, and I shouldn't answer a legal question with certainty. It would be nice for the attorney to comment on it. I would suspect if we followed our laws and we followed the process, we may not, but the reality is I suspect, again, that doesn't mean somebody isn't going to try to say the city played a role in this. We've had situations where, since I've been here on Baker Trail, where someone wanted to build a garage and just said, hey, I will give you a legal document that specifically says the city will not, will never sue the city over this thing, never. And it will be whoever owns this, that they buy the property, the legal document is to say the city is never going to get in trouble with that. We could not even remotely consider that. It's a violation of the law, and we didn't accept it. And we've talked to the DNR about that. We talked with our attorney. We can't. We've got to follow our laws, basically.
Well, and that's what I'm questioning is because we're allowing some irregularities here, whether it's through the CUP process or variances, whatever ways this is. And I'm just wondering if the worst of all worst happened and they needed FEMA to step in because nobody has this type of insurance because it's incredibly expensive. Would FEMA come back and say, well, City of Faribault, you guys allowed this in a place where obviously wasn't recommended to be, so you guys are on it. And like I said, that's far-fetched, but I'm just wondering if we're opening any liability like that, because this is I'm always looking for a way to say yes. I want to know how we can say yes, but I also don't want to put our city in any type of additional liability.
So, council member, let me ask or answer the question in maybe a roundabout way. So with the shoreland, we do have the opportunity to grant variances. If we do grant a variance, we have to let the DNR know why this was justified, why this was a unique situation, especially if they've recommended denial of it. There have been a few significant cases in Minnesota, and you may recall seeing some of these things. One was the Stanley Hubbard House on the St. Croix River, Hubbard Broadcasting, or KSTP. That family was building a significant house that violated the shoreland overlay ordinance, but went through proper procedures with the city. The city said, in this case, given the size of the lot, all those kinds of things, we're going to grant the variance. DNR came back and said, no, you're not. You erred in that, and we're not going to allow that. I've seen a number of cases too where people have had to remove structures, and I don't know what, if the cities get drug into a lawsuit then over that, I don't know. Again, that'd be a question for our city attorney.
I know it's far-fetched, so.
Yeah.
And then one more question, because I don't want to take up all this time or people mad that they're not getting their chicken sandwiches. But, so even if we were to approve this, just as the applicant has requested it, the DNR could still come in and stamp deny on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, they can potentially stop construction on this if it begins because we've issued building permits. They could sue and, resolve it and have it removed. That's correct. So the DNR commissioner can get involved and again, it doesn't happen that often, but it has happened.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director.
So that means that we have the opportunity to extend the review of all of these.
What I would say that you want to take action tonight on the preliminary and final plat because under law, we're required to take action within so many days on that. Now with the variance and CUP, we have a little bit more time on that because it wasn't recognized until we saw exactly where the house was going to be, that we understood, the variances and CUPs were needed. So that time clock is still ticking and we have more time. But if you were to go against the Planning Commission's recommendation on that again, the recommendation would be do not take action other than continuing that to your next meeting. We'll have the city attorney here at the next meeting and we can go through it in much more detail at the next meeting. And, you would have to provide us enough direction so that we can come back with some sort of resolution and have a discussion on this. But essentially, it would be holding off on just the two, the CUP and the variances.
So what we saw a few weeks ago with the Ramadan Dam, where the river eroded the bluff, you say this is not the case here because the river is too far away?
Yeah, I mean, in that case, it was the river running against it, but you see landslides, mudslides.
Right, this is for rainfall, right? Heavy rainfall that could...
Yeah, and
because
it's
it's too
possible, yep, it's possible, again, I'm not an expert on this, but it's possible that if there's significant erosion along, one area of the river, that just continually works its way up the hill, as well as one thing falls, the next thing falls, and it just continually goes until there's a leveling off of the...
Okay, so it still could come from the downside?
Potentially it could.
Because I was thinking if it's too steep to withstand rainfall, retaining walls, again, I'm not an engineer on this, but would the retaining wall help or reinforcing with concrete pillars?
Sure, so the applicant is proposing some retaining walls and so on, but again, the DNR says there is basically a bluff impact zone that you stay out of. Just leave that be. It's similar to our shoreline and wetlands ordinances. You have these areas around there that you just you can't touch. You gotta leave that natural for a variety of reasons. In this case, it's to protect, the homeowner or the businesses, whatever might be in that area from future problems down the road.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the Vanderveen's address, I believe it is Lindale Avenue. And if you look at the title work for this, it extended all the way over to 21. I think in council member, if I could just add, I believe both the Vanderveens and the Klebergers really like the feel of the existing driveway. They like going, down a wooded
I would too.
driveway.
It's a very unique piece of property right in the city. That's a different subject. I just think I see three options that
moved back. They're gonna be close to the houses on Crystal Lane. Meet the setbacks.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm a little bit concerned about
Actually, we're okay with the conditional use. It's the variance for the construction and top grading. That's the real question.
I'm with this based on DNR.
Right, which is the construction and grading.
Yeah, so
Okay. That's the second one.
yeah, I think the preliminary and final plots. I think
Okay. Yeah, Councilman Teal.
Yes, so yeah, for sure, I don't know, my big concern is that it's so far. If it was like 2 feet or 3 feet. I don't know, but it looks, there's deck posts literally on the bluff. This is tough for me. But the next, so also with the DNR. Yeah, so like Royal said, if we do approve it, what's the next step? Maybe we can ask.
I've actually seen the DNR have structures removed in Rice County because they didn't meet their.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. I'm all about a house with a great view. I got nothing wrong with that, but the impact to the slope is going to be my challenge here. I'm not comfortable with that, but I am comfortable with the other two. And Councilmember Spooner, I noticed years ago that 1300 Lindale Avenue address was terrible because I had to go do a service call at that house, and it took me half an hour to find it. And I said, what would happen if you would ever call 911?
That's why I wondered the address on this.
Well, Crystal Court I can work with, but the Vanderdeens at 1300 Lindale makes no sense. No. If it's ever subdivided or platted, we definitely need to get that changed.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yep,
I'll get the
Councilmember
ball
Spooner.
rolling here on this
Okay.
one.
Sounds good.
second that.
Got a motion by Councilmember Spooner, seconded by Councilmember Dumia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Move on to the second one, Resolution 2024-140, deny a variance for construction and grading near the top of bluff at 1150 Court. Approving the denial.
I'm just gonna state it again. We've had issues with the DNR.
Motion by Spooner, seconded by
I'll second it.
Ross. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Resolution 2024-141, approve a conditional use permit for a single-family home in Shoreland at 1150 Court Circle. Spooner?
I
Yep.
think there's a couple good options. I'm going to make a motion to approve resolution.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Spooner, seconded by Councilmember Von Slus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one passes. You know, your comment about Thursday night shows, they could build one heck of a cantilever house here. Right over that bluff. All right, that takes care of all of our items for discussion. We have no bids tonight. Any boards, commission reports, announcements, project updates? Councilmember Ross.
No board or announcements there, but would just like to extend a thank you. Buried in the consent agenda, we did approve 57 election judges tonight. Thanks to all those citizens that have stepped forward and take part in our election process.
Heather for wrangling them all up.
Oh yes, Heather's in charge.
Answering all their crazy questions.
57 is a pretty significant number.
It
so
is.
That's good.
Twice this year that you're going to have 3 times. Oh, you already did once,
Hey, Vracek.
yeah.
I am going to excuse myself for next meeting.
Okay.
Next week I'll be in the middle of hectic preparation for the Rice County Fair, and I don't think I'm going to be making
Kinzer's got that noted. I will also be gone. Anything else? Administrator Kinzer.
I just want to do a quick public service announcement for the community survey. So I think 3,500 or 4,500 households in the community got this postcard. Did anybody up here get a gray?
I got one.
Okay. So this was sent to randomly selected addresses. The city did not select those addresses. Our vendor Polco selected those addresses, and it does have a link on here for anybody who is able to go online to take the survey to do that now. However, if they in a few weeks there will be a paper copy that will be mailed out if somebody doesn't have a computer or internet access. So just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. And then Brad checked this morning that I think I received mine on Friday, and along with many others in the community. And as of this morning, there were 81 responses so far, and so that's good for just getting this out here so soon. This survey of the randomly selected individuals will be open until August 12th, but we do want to encourage people to respond early. And then just as a reminder, an open survey available to anybody who did or did not get this card will be available online starting on July 22nd, and we'll be promoting that more as that date gets closer and as we continue to hope to see more and more responses. But just a public service announcement to please take the survey if you got invited to.
Okay.
No.
Rice County Fair starts next week. That's why you'll be gone in your hectic world. So go visit
Right.
the fair.
Friday, Wednesday at 1 p.m.
The official opening ceremony.
Yes.
Sounds good. I keep hearing it on KDHL. Makes me want to go, but I
Please do.
won't. But I won't. I'll be out of town. Councilmember Ross has a thought.
Yes, we do have the International Festival this weekend, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, 11 to 3, Central Park, the International Festival. Peter, any idea how many years this has been? It's been in quite a few.
It's 17, 18 years.
So if somebody wants some very good food and good entertainment, that's the
It
place
is
to
a
be
really,
on Saturday
really
afternoon.
good festival, yes.
Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Anything else? If not, I would take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We are